your upcoming book, we'll talk about a little bit more. We talked about Good Boy. We've talked about Bella's Boys, award-winning story. And
nominated.
We'll say you win. If you get nominated, it's a winner.
It's okay. That's what I say too. That's what I thought.
I said it wrong though.
A nomination's a win. It's an acknowledgement from your peers that, hey, we like what you did. Attaboy. That's what awards are. That's what the Grammys are. That's what the Oscars are. That's what any award is. It's your peers saying, attaboy.
Keep it up. Keep it
up.
Yep.
And them acknowledging you and you getting a nomination. I've had 2 nominations for Splatterpunk Awards, and that's the extreme horror and Splatterpunk community's way of telling me, hey, Tom, we like what you're doing. Keep it up.
I love it. And I think it's important. And again, I'm glad we had this discussion on, and nomination isn't a word, because I have a lot of actors on who are nominated, winners too, but like, I think they're the same amount of cool. Like it doesn't make a difference. Anyway, I want to talk about God Provides. The God Provides. That is big on it all. You tell me what I need to know about this story.
Originally, that book was called Fireflies and Apple Pies.
Well, that sounds delicious. Like a good summer day in July next to the creek or creek, depending on where you're from.
Late September during the harvest, maybe.
Oh, apple pies. Sorry. Yeah. I'm riffing bad.
All right. I love Stephen King. We all do.
Okay.
And I was in a workshop one month, and I wanted to do something that was 4 novelettes that made one story. And I wrote, in this workshop, what I then called Black Deaths. It is then evolved into what is now A Prayer from the Dead, another book that I wrote. It's a cyberpunk book. But when I first wrote it, it didn't really work. So the second workshop that I went into to do something like this with my mentor, Garrett, I really focused on having it be snapshots of this family in upstate New York. And it starts in the modern era and it ends during the Revolutionary War. The stories go back in time. There's 4 novelettes in it. And here's the difference between it and the Cycle of the Werewolf. Between The God Provides and Cycle of the Werewolf. Cycle of the Werewolf is 12 short stories that take place on 12 full moons and tell an overarching story. My werewolves don't change during the full moon. That's something that was made up in a movie. The first Wolfman movie, the poem is, even a man who is pure of heart and says his prayer at night will become a wolf when the wolf's bane blooms and the autumn moon is bright. That's the original poem. And the Dracula eats the Wolfman. They added the full moon part. Okay?
I didn't know that.
Now you do.
Honestly, Here's
another thing about the Wolfman, the Lon Chaney Wolfman movie. Why does a movie that is filmed during World War II not have any Germans in it? You know why?
No. I have guesses.
Because there was a Nazi in that movie. Lawrence Talbot, the American.
Huh.
During World War II, we were almost this close to siding with Germany. This close. And that movie was a metaphor, commentary on that. The werewolf in fiction represents the fascist and the Nazi. It always has. It is a rage beast that destroys things without thinking. Larry Talbot is the only non-British person in the Wolfman movie. He is the Nazi. Now, the gypsies, they originally were Jews. The pentacle on the palm was originally a Star of David, but because of anti-Semitism in Hollywood, the studio made them change it. And the screenplay was written by a Jew. He was pissed.
I imagine.
But Kurt did what he was told to do, so he did it. So, yeah.
I did not.
The Wolfman is so important to our fiction, and people don't get it. Because almost everything that we use for werewolves in fiction comes from that movie and Dracula. That's it. People, oh, it's lycanthropes and Greece and ancient this. No, skinwalkers and stuff like that are not werewolves. They're different things. Don't confuse the two. Everything that we have for werewolves, the wolf's bane, the silver bullets, all of that comes from two places: Dracula and the Wolfman. That's it. So that's what I went to for my source material for my vampires and my werewolves. My vampires in my books are Stoker vampires. They're revenants. They're evil people who did evil things during their lives, and when they die, they come back to life. Biting them does not turn them into a vampire. They're just awful people.
Yeah, and the biting thing always kind of to turn into vampire. Like, and whenever I see it, the next question always says, "Well, why didn't you turn that person into a henchman? Why didn't you? Why do you kill at all? You can make an army of henchmen or people that do, or is that too much work and you don't want to do the accounting?"
You see the flaw there. You see the logic flaw there.
And then I loved Buffy, but I never understood well, he lost his soul, so therefore he's evil. But he wasn't a bad person, so he nobody they never.
Don't get me started on Buffy.
What, the fighting skills that you get when you die?
No,
and become a vampire.
Spike.
Oh,
Spike is stolen from a splatterpunk novel, the first splatterpunk novel. The character's name in that book was Rudy. Joss Whedon has gone on record as saying that Spike is Rudy.
I thought he was just ripping off Sid Vicious.
No. The very first splatterpunk novel is called The Light at the End. Dracula turns a punk rocker into a vampire and lets him loose in New York City.
Well, they did do that in Spike's background as well. Okay. So
yeah, that's what it is. So imagine if the kids from Stranger Things were bicycle couriers instead of teenagers. This is the plot to The Light at the End, the very first splatterpunk novel by John Skipp and Craig Spector. Okay. Imagine if the D&D nerds from Stranger Things were older and they were bicycle couriers in New York City playing D&D, and then they find a real vampire. What do? That's The Light at the End. The Light at the End, the reason it's splatterpunk, it has the most repulsive R scene in it that I've ever read in any book. When Dracula dominates Rudy. It's vile. It makes a Serbian film look like a children's film.
Jesus Christ, man.
That's how vile it is. You will have a complete interpretation of the R word after you read that book. It will make you a better person.
Christ. All right.
You will finally understand how repulsive and how awful that act is. That's what splatterpunk is. Splatterpunk brings attention to things that you need to pay attention to. It is transgressive. It is punk for a reason. It is counterculture. It is there to teach you a lesson. If you are a bad person, this is what's going to happen to you in spades.
So that brings me to a question. And I was going to ask you for a definition of what splatterpunk is. And I'm sure there's other ways to describe it that you might even use. But so my question is, based on that sentence, is Clive Barker splatterpunk?
Yes.
Because most of his characters you never have sympathy for. They didn't do anything wrong. A guy finds a tied up knot on the ground and is now cursed for a violent death. He never worked. Your book, I wanted to draw that comparison too. I had sympathy for some of your characters, or I knew why they had to have happened what was going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
Clive Barker would just pick somebody out of a crowd walking down the street and something shitty's going to happen to him.
Clive Barker is splatterpunk. Clive Barker is transgressive. He has to be. He's gay. All right. And he wants to bring attention to the perils of the gay community in his fiction in a time where being gay is a death sentence. Because you got to realize his books came out in the 80s and early 90s.
The Books of Blood I fanboyed on, literally giving copies to people in school.
Mm-hmm.
This is the best thing.
I'm going to tell you right now, you can't read Clive Barker and not be empathetic to the gay community. You learn it through his words. You learn that empathy by reading his books.
I think when I read them, I already had it, but I never got that lesson, and I'm going to reread them now to find that, because I'm pissed I didn't see it.
Poppy Z. Bright as well. I got to moderate a panel with Billy Martin a couple of years ago. Poppy Z. Bright, Poppy's a trans man. And
Okay.
and they still allowed to use Poppy's Bright because it's a pen name anyway. So a lot of Poppy's books was very transgressive, and all the lead characters in them were gay. And when I got to do this panel, I opened it up by saying, listen, I am a child of the 80s. When I grew up, I was raised in a Christian household, and I was told that gay people were sinners and they were going to go to hell.
And they didn't use the word gay people.
Right.
Yeah.
I looked Billy dead in the eye. I said, you want to say that your fiction didn't change anybody? I'm going to tell you right now, it changed me. Because reading books by you and reading books by Clive Barker made me an ally to you. Made me have empathy for you. It taught me. I learned. If I can, anybody can. So don't think that your words were wasted, I told him. I made him cry. It was a good cry.
Good. Yeah. Hey,
I cried too when I was telling the story.
I'm almost emotional hearing it because it was before I discovered these books. I was using internet bulletin boards in the 80s where you dial up with your computer and a slow ass modem. Mm-hmm. And there was Commodore. It was the Commodore 64, and there was one that had it was called FidoNet, I think, at the time, and it would send messages around the world. It would take days as one at midnight, like a bulletin board would connect somewhere else. And I basically said, I don't understand, and I didn't use the word gay. They're evil. They're going to hell. And one guy took a time out of his day, and he messaged me, why are you so angry? What did gay people ever do to you? And I'm like, it's just evil. And all the stuff I'd heard that was poured into me, like all the hatred. And he's like,
you were just parroting. Yep.
I was parroting. And he said something. He's like, do you like broccoli? And I was like, yeah, I love broccoli. He's like, I hate broccoli. Why is that? Why do I like something and want something in me that I don't want something in me that you want in you? And does that make you a bad person? And he took it that direction. And he explained, like, do you remember the first time you looked at a female form and you thought that looked good? I'm like, well, yeah, I think it was Wonder Woman, Linda Carter. And he's like, for me, it was Aquaman in the cartoon. And I suddenly realized people are just different. That you don't need to hate. You like, and this man, and I have no idea who he was. We never talked again after this. This person changed my life with words on a bulletin board system to a stranger or probably around the world. Words matter. Words matter.
They took the time to talk to you nice about it too.
Yeah. And I was being a hateful person.
Yeah. I have never thought of myself as a racist person. But that's my privilege that has allowed me to do that. So the day that I was told that I had privilege, I lost my shit. I'm Irish, I said. Blah, blah, blah. And I went down that path.
I had long hair. I was picked on by the cops, just like the black people. I had that argument.
And so Nicole says to me, she's a woman of color. Her child is mixed. She says, Tom, we're not going to argue about this. I just want you to answer this question for me. Yes or no? When you get on a bus, do little old ladies clench their purse? I said, no. Tom, when my 5-year-old son gets on a bus, little old ladies clench their purse because he's black. You're right, Nicole. I have privilege.
Yeah.
Yep. That changed. That was 15 years ago. That changed my life.
Yeah. If you don't have to think about how people are going to interact with you the moment you wake up, like when you make your daily plans, if you don't have to think, well, I got to avoid that. Like, yeah, you have some privileges in your life. You're not wasting energy on these thoughts that nobody should have to deal with.
I take lessons like that and I put it in my fiction. And I'm going to use this to bring us back to the God Provides that we were originally talking about before I derailed us.
I derailed us, but
well, I did because of fucking Joss Whedon. But
bastard.
I love to take conspiracy theories and I like to play with them and you put them into my fiction because they're fun, because they're all bullshit. Okay. But they're good fiction. They're good urban fantasy. They're good urban tales, urban tall tales. And one of those is the RF negative blood thing there about the purity of the race, blah, blah, blah. So my vampire in this book only wants that blood. That's the only blood
the tastiest.
Yeah, the tastiest is the sweetest royal blood. Yeah, that's why so I will take stuff like that and put it into my fiction. And in that story, there's a woman walking down the road. She uses the word libtard. So you immediately can tell she's a conservative.
You
and
know who
gets
she
killed.
is.
Yeah, you know this person, but I don't plan her out to be a bad person. You feel empathy for her when she gets killed. You do, because I put a personality into her.
Yeah.
That's key. But sometimes those personalities are bad things, like the vampire wanting the RH negative, RF negative blood. That's all they feed off. And
Well, if they say it's superior.
Right. So that gave me opportunities with that character to make them even nastier and more horrible than I already had imagined them. Because sometimes when you're writing, the characters take you places. And this Chad, because his name's Chad, he really took me places. Oh, it was
always follow
great.
with Chad. Something fun's gonna happen.
Yeah. So anyway, whereas we were talking about Cycle of the Werewolf in comparison to The God Provides, and I had mentioned that the Cycle of the Werewolf is 12 short stories told on 12 full moons.
Yes.
The God Provides is 4 novelettes, each taking place on a different pagan cross-quarter holiday. So instead of the main holidays, which are the solstices and the equinoxes, it's at the ones in between, the May Day, Candlemas, which we just had, or Imbolc, if you want to call it that. I say Candlemas because it's easier because people remember it.
People know what that
then
one
there's
is.
May Day, Halloween, and then Lammas, the first day of August. They're like the first days of the month or the last days of the months. So that's when my story's in that, and they start in modern day, and the second story takes place a few years before the first story. Then the third story takes place a few decades before the second story. And the fourth story takes place a few centuries before the previous story. So it goes all the way back to the Revolutionary War.
I love when writers do stuff like that because and tell me if I'm wrong, you are challenging yourself. Like you set up this rule as a challenge to yourself, and we get to watch you like as an abstract to see if you pull it off the way you wanted to. Like you could tell sometimes like that's what you wanted to do. Did you do what you wanted to do?
Yep. And the way I did it was this. The first story is told in past tense. The second story I started off talking it in past tense, and then it shifts to present tense, and the rest of the stories remain in present tense. So you know there's something going on here. I alert your brain to what I'm doing subconsciously. It was all by design.
A real quick aside, I wonder if that's why Dan Brown I don't know what he's doing sometimes with his tense, but it just traps you in because your brain's like, what is this? What? I don't know. Sorry. Your use of tense made me think of that. I'm not saying. Go ahead.
Go on. You finish.
I'm not saying I grew quickly tired of Dan Brown but I was fascinated by his style of writing, the way he chose to put words the way he did for me. But after a while, I just
don't disparage the Dan Browns or the Stephanie Meyers.
I'm not disparaging, but like I was fascinated by his style of writing. I really was. But like I read 3 stories in a row and they kind of blurred, and I did the same thing with another author, and I can't get back into it.
That's his thing. That's his inexperience as a writer. Well, okay. Dan Brown has a reputation of being a poor writer, a poor prose writer.
But is he doing it on purpose?
He just has this reputation. I'm not going to disparage another creative.
Okay, yeah.
All right. And so as a result of that, yes, there is a commonality that we'll just say that his writing looks like it's AI written. But it was before AI existed. What's that tell you?
I know who it ripped off.
Well, yeah, he ripped off himself
as well. Yeah.
Yeah, he told the same stories over and over again. Yeah. But say what you will about Dan or Stephanie or E.L. James there that wrote the 50 Shades of fan fiction, 50 Shades of Grey.
A story written by somebody who doesn't actually do what they're writing about.
Well, it doesn't. Yeah. Beside all of that, it creates readers. So I may not like their books, but I don't care as long as somebody else does.
100%.
They're going to read my books because we all rise together.
I agree.
I
tell bar owners that I used to have a job where I dealt with you're not, the bar across the street is not competition. They're another reason to come to your part of town.
Right.
And I say, and again, I'm not disparaging Dan Brown. Me personally, if somebody was on the show and they loved every word he's ever written and is going to write, I love it. Like, you should have things you love, regardless. My opinion means nothing. I'm just this guy. Love what you love. Right. I say that a lot. Have a great one. Thank you, everybody. Have a wonderful night. Be safe out there. Treat each other well.